Hello and welcome to LeisureCast. My name is Brian Krogsgaard. I'm here with Josh Olszewicz. Hey, Josh.
Mr. Brian, I got an email today from my TD Ameritrade notifying me that I should get ready for some increased volatility
Ooh.
for the election.
Is that a sign of bottom things, or
I don't know.
Or that it will be incredibly non-volatile?
I don't know. Well, they did that for Brexit too, and that was quite volatile.
It was volatile.
But that was like the unexpected happened, right? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely they were expecting Brexit to fail, and then it passed, so it was much more volatile than they anticipated.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We are recording on Friday. The election is on Tuesday, so we should know who won sometime in the next 30 to 60 days.
I was gonna say. I was hoping you'd say that. I was hoping you'd say we're not gonna know for a long time yet.
Yeah, it makes me sad. I wish we could know Tuesday night, go to bed, and just forget about this whole election process. But that would be that's the most bullish scenario for markets, no matter who wins. Right? Is if we find out Tuesday night or Wednesday morning and it's over.
I think it's the most bullish and unlikely. I think the only way that happens is if Biden wins in a sweep and Trump somehow concedes.
Because you think if Trump dominates, you'd still have to wait for the mail-in vote because it's so large, right? To find out if that swung Biden.
Right.
But if Biden dominates, the narrative assumption is that the mail-in vote is pro-Biden anyway.
Yeah. So like if Biden wins, Biden kind of has to win the day of election in order for everything to not be called a scam, because as it is, people are going into it assuming that the election process is compromised.
Yeah.
Which is interesting considering in 2016, the right was sure that the election process was not compromised.
But now it is compromised.
Right. And I'm not saying it was in 2016. I'm just saying like it's just funny how
that works when it
is that about face
fits your narrative.
Exactly.
But compromised for different reasons. Like I don't think they're claiming that it's compromised because of foreign influence, but compromised because of domestic influence, right?
Right. And obviously mail-in voting isn't ideal, but what's our alternative right now, you know?
Yeah. All right, so we proposed this in the chat before we started recording, and I want to ask you, the chat was pretty split. There was left, right, and different. Which person getting elected is more bullish or more bearish for crypto?
I think it doesn't even matter. We just need a lack of, we just need assurance that it's going to be somebody, you know? We just need an answer at this point.
Yeah, I think that's true for the stock market and probably for crypto too.
It needs to stop becoming an open question as far as the transition. Is the Supreme Court going to get involved, which I'm sure it will be. I think it's going to be the messiest thing possible, honestly. And I think by Republicans jamming through that Supreme Court person, they are going to attempt everything they can to stay in power.
Do you think it's going to be like a hanging chads scenario all over again, where they're fighting over every little thing that impacts votes?
Like, for sure.
In 2000?
They're going to fight over every single battleground state that's close. They will send to the Supreme Court. 100%.
Almost every time I've talked to somebody about the hanging chad stuff from 2000, they were like, "What are you talking about?" And
no.
Yes, it was only 20 years ago, but there's a lot of youngins that were hardly out of diapers at that time, and they can vote now. And I think the idea of a long contested election is shocking to some people.
Well, I think not having an answer the night of is shocking to people. But if you think about the logistics behind opening, verifying, and counting millions of mail-in ballots, which they can't start to do until the election night, like that takes a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Crispus in the chat has the answer to that in all caps.
It should take a long time though, right? This should be like a simple thing. Go ahead, sorry.
He just says blockchain fixes this, basically.
Yeah, I mean every single way to vote has ways to compromise it, right? So
yeah, I think the assurance of the vote I think voting is one of those things where when I got into crypto and I was thinking about it, I was like, this seems like one of the ideal circumstances, right? Like the verification of the count, the public auditability, the identity verification, like so many things seem to fit with blockchain and voting. But we don't even really do like electric ballots much, so like it's
Well, 2 years ago, they tested blockchain voting for overseas military people in like North Carolina or Virginia, some southern state. I don't know what the end result of that was, but I think it was favorably received anyway.
yeah. I mean, I think that one day public records and voting will probably end up on some kind of blockchain, maybe hybrid blockchain. I don't know, but I just thought they were funny.
Yeah.
Voting on blockchains, I'm down with it. Imagine how much that particular chain would moon if it was announced that
it's not going to be any public decentralized chain for sure. It's going to be some private corporate thing. I think there's no way. If anything, it's going to be on like the central bank currency chain.
It's going to be on Muracoin.
Sure.
Did you understand what I said? Murica.
Oh, I thought you meant
Muracoin.
A person. Yeah,
sorry. It was a real bad dad joke.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
All right.
I agree with High IQ Whale. The last thing I'll say is we need to stop electing old people. We need age limits and term limits.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of career politicians. I'm so sick of it.
It's not even just career politicians. It's people that were born in the same few years. Like they all went to college together. Like they're all the same age. Like going back to like 1988 or something, like 1992, Bill Clinton is the same age as Donald Trump. Like it's ridiculous.
And
we've been voting the same group of people in for 30 plus years.
And when all this was conceived, the country, people didn't live till they were 100. The RBG situation should have never happened. People on the Supreme Court should not be that old. I'm sorry. They just shouldn't be. There should be age limits. I think there should be age limits in the Senate, especially. But
term limits. I don't know how you enforce age limits, but I think
anybody who qualifies for Medicare should not be holding public office.
That's a fun one. Until Medicare for all, then everybody would have Medicare in public office.
There you go.
Bam.
Anyway.
No, I think enacting term limits would effectively solve age limit issues. Probably.
I agree.
Unless someone makes the jump and it's like you're in the House for 3 terms and then you're in the Senate for 2 terms and then you run, then you could still be really old. But I mean, surely people are just going to start pushing against the system in that way. And I blame boomers. I blame Gen X. They have failed. Gen X did not stand up and boomers suck. How about that?
I'm just sick of seeing the same people with the same no spine ideals. I'm sick of Pelosi. I'm sick of McConnell. I'm sick of all of them.
They're so old.
They are so old. Just retire and enjoy the rest of your little life that you have left. Like I don't understand. I really don't understand it.
I think they're afraid if they retire, they'll just shrivel up and die. All right, we've talked about politics enough. Sorry, I shouldn't have done it.
But if you're that wealthy, don't you want to just do stuff that's not a job? And I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You would think. Power must be a hell of a drug.
I guess so.
All right. So we're seeing some sell-offs in legacy markets. Bitcoin holding strong. Altcoins, not so much. For what it's worth, the S&P tapped into the 2020 open. I don't know about the Qs and other stuff, but several things have taken a beating in legacy. There's a potential for double top type stuff in legacy. I feel like people are preparing for potential risk off if they have to, like putting some aside, maybe taking some profits on the year for people with the long-term lens, stuff like that. But this could easily get bought up from a dip perspective. We're seeing a strong week on the dollar, but it's not like the dollar is just suddenly uber duper strong. There is a potential larger Adam and Eve type of bottom from that failed Head and Shoulders. honestly, the fact that that head and shoulders that we talked about for so long, it had the failed or like the partial breakout and then looked like it was going to fail it, and it did. It failed the right shoulder, but recovered in a way that just signaled to me that we're just going to enter a long period of chop here for the dollar.
Yeah.
I still don't think we're just going to break up and go to 96 or something, you know?
Yeah. And
But
speaking of market volatility, why don't we just close? Let's just close everything for a week. Let's make it a weekly holiday. You know, it's so important. If democracy is so important, let's just close the markets for a week, you know?
close the markets, make it a national holiday to vote. Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Because yeah, volatility.
in the midst,
Volatility is coming because indecision is coming.
right.
You know, contested election is coming. That's 100% coming. I think that's what we're seeing priced in right now in legacy for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of why I think if it's one of those things where the election is it's contested, but it's like most reasonable people think it's over, you know, like then maybe we pump out of the election somehow. Like if it's almost a formality of the contestation, like the statistics just don't stand behind it, you know.
And I love the Uber Republicans saying that Biden taxes and cap gains taxes are going to destroy the S&P. And my retort is, well, you know, stimulus is going to pump the crap out of that thing anyway. So there's a bit of a give and a take there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, no tax plans have been passed. You know, it's just going to be anticipating what could come, but we don't know what'll come. Meanwhile, Bitcoin went up throughout a rough week for the S&P. Bitcoin has had really two down days since the last time we talked, but only one significant kind of downward retest. But even that didn't get below 12.9 or so. You have this pattern on your chart.
I'm honestly shocked at how well BTC has held up against legacy, against ETH. Alts dying is like inevitable because they were so overbought for so long. But for BTC to just stay the path is just kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's really strong. Is it? I don't know if it's like if the chaos trade is on. It's like we just shift our narratives, you know, like.
But that's okay. Like I was talking about this in the where is it? I was talking about this in the legacy video I did this week. If the correlations are coming off, then we're not. You know, you got to say, all right, now we're the safe haven. You know, that's what it looks like. VIX is 38 today. It was 40 yesterday, and that historically has never been bullish for crypto. But for some reason, BTC says whatever, and I'm gonna go up regardless of the VIX.
Yeah, I think consolidating during that period is a sign that when it cools off, Bitcoin should go crazy. Continues to line up with a very bullish December, like November and December for me, because the VIX just doesn't spend months up there. You know, like the VIX is, like you said, at 40 right now. It doesn't.
Can you imagine what happens if VIX gets above 80 again? What scenario do you think that would happen?
Riots?
Riots, lockdowns, civil unrest.
Yeah, in an extreme manner.
Do you think Biden's going to promote a lockdown situation? I don't know what his corona plan is. Honestly, I haven't paid attention enough.
I think they're trying to leave doors open. That's why I don't think that's why we know very well. You know, like I think they're going to play it based on what's going on. All right, so the VIX went up for 4 weeks last time to hit 80. It's at 40 right now because it never went all the way down. So it's in one VIX up week, it's at 40. I think 1 or 2 down weeks could take it back to over 60, which would be, I mean, that would be bearish for Bitcoin. Like I have a hard time believing Bitcoin sustains against the trend of everything else. If it really goes above, above 50 again. 50 is the level on my chart that's like on the VIX. We went above it in 2008 and 2020. Everything else we tipped to 50. So if we go above 50 again, to me that's a sign of the market is really risking off. So I'd be surprised for Bitcoin to hold up in that if the VIX gets that severe. But whenever, like we've said, however many times, when it does top, the trip down will be very bullish for Bitcoin.
Yeah. And that, I think that just speaks to the uncertainty of everything, Corona, election, even the stuff with China and Taiwan that's going on that no one's really talking about.
Yeah. And if somebody's listening and you hear, the VIX 50, the VIX 80, what's that mean? Well, in a general manner, it's like, if you think of it, the percent down, up in a day, if it's at 80, you can just use a rule of thumb. Like, that's probably like a 7 to 10% move on a daily basis. So that's kind of where we were at the depths of the March stuff. So you just mathematically, it's really tough to sustain that high of VIX levels because markets want to stabilize, So these, 1 to 2% daily moves are going to get you back below 50, right? But you get 5% plus type of moves, VIX is going to be really high. I just don't think that lasts very long. That's the sign of the capitulation, and it might be extreme for a bit, but it that will settle down. And when that settles down, that's good for Bitcoin.
Historically. But yeah, it should be.
What else you got on your chart there?
The
Ethereum side. So you talked about the strength of Bitcoin, but Ethereum.
Let me get back to this real quick. This looks to me like an ascending broadening wedge, which according to Bukowski, who did respond to the email and said he doesn't do that thing anymore. He doesn't do podcasts, which is fine. Still love you, Tommy boy.
He only does AM radio.
Ascending broadening wedge. He said it breaks down 52% of the time, which isn't really says anything about bias here. But I jumped out of my longs last night at around 4 a.m. Eastern. Probably premature on the BTC side, but I just didn't. What I didn't want to happen is stick around for this cascade. If we do break 13K, I think it goes back deep to like 12. I don't think we're gonna chill out at 13.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, level to level type of traders that I respect, who have been pointing around 12K, which is reasonable for a drawdown. The more you overextend the upside, the deeper that wick can be on the downside. I do think this can just kind of continue sideways and bust up, especially since we keep talking about the daggum election, but it's only a few days, and if that has the type of environment where upside is the answer across markets, then we could just break up out of this from a sideways consolidation without that 12K tap. In a bull market, you don't have to go and retest every single level. But if there is any uncertainty, I do think I agree. I think it can easily be that $1,500 move down.
I think what spooked me the most is I don't see anything that's blanketly bullish here. Like there isn't anything screaming to me like this needs to keep going. Yeah. We have a start of a TKC clamp, which isn't like terrible as far as percentage wise, but I don't know. I just felt like, all right, you can always get back in, right? You can always get back in at 11.8 or 12.5, right? Like I'm not worried about missing anything here.
Yeah, the bullish thing for me in terms of keeping going is the weekly, but the weekly gives a allowance for significant retraces at the same time. Like I look at the weekly, sure, we could go up to 16K in 1 or 2 candles on a weekly basis, or we can consolidate down to 12K and tap. I've started a parabolic advance line if we were gonna follow it. Like even that, over the next 3 or so weeks, we could tap 12K and maintain this extremely bullish parabolic advance line. So like there's plenty of room for downside within the broader bull market.
I agree. So I agree that we could keep going. I just don't think it's clear one way or the other here.
Yeah, it's not screaming at you that we have to get going, especially when the current weekly candle is a smaller weekly candle than the breakout candle that we just had, and it's also not cleared the next level. Like The keep going level is if we clear 14K on the weekly, right?
Yeah. And we talked about this last podcast, but on the expected Kumo breakout percentage moves, BTC is like right in that range of 30 to 60% from the breakout. Again, not saying it can stop here, but it certainly should begin to consolidate around this area, which it is. But
yeah, that makes sense. Shout out. Oh crap, I lost it. Paragon said if you look at it on the monthly, then it just says we're gonna chad straight into 20K this year. So fair. We are right up against the monthly resistance from December 2017, and we only have 1 day in the month. So if we somehow cleared 13.9, 14K to close out the month, that would be interesting because it would be an all-time high, all-time monthly closing high.
But the slower, this is counterintuitive probably to most people, but the slower it goes, the deeper the pullbacks, the longer this thing can last. Just look at 2017. We need those massive, what was this? Let me measure these other two. This was a 30%. This was a 30%. So it's like 35% drawdown. I don't think we see that now.
Where would 35% put us now? Like 8 or 9?
35%. Yeah, 8888 is 35%. I don't think we see that now. I don't think we're overbought enough for 35%.
Yeah, when those happened before, I mean, they were after real big moves up. We went up 17x in 1 year. So a 30% drawdown makes sense when you've made that many multiples. A 30%.
All of these were 30%. Every single one of them.
Yeah. Was there one that was 50%, like the one to 1800, 36, like 3600 to 1800 in the summer with the Bcash stuff?
Well, not on daily closes anyway.
38% on the daily close, but I think it might have hit 45% or something on week to week. But point being, that's en route from 1K to 17, 18K, not whatever we, even I guess you could say our bottom to top is 3K to whatever. But even in 2017, the bottom was 200, and we're talking 2017 was 1K to whatever. So if we say 2021 is the parabolic year, not to say it's going to be, but if it was, the equivalent would be going from like 20K to 200K or something,
Yeah.
The Winklevi said we could go to 500K with gold parity. So there's that.
I think we're a ways away from that.
I am not mentally prepared for that. That's a level of life-changing money that I'm not mentally prepared for.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
And I think there'd be too many individual investors that would get rich in that scenario if it happened too quick, I feel like the big institutions got to push more retail out in order for that to be possible.
I always like looking at this chart. If I only see it on Into the Block now, but it's the unspent transaction outputs. I post these in the Bitcoin articles, but it's when the warm colors start to rise up. So this is the age of coins. We've talked about this before,
the age of coins and as they move, right?
Right. So you can see at the previous bubble, we had a lot of newly aged coins moving. So if you hold a coin for 5 years, it's blue. If you hold a coin and move it the next day, it's warmer down here for people who aren't watching the video. But and what you tend to see at the highs is exactly what you're talking about. When people get this life-changing money, or when they're like, I need to take profit, I need to sell, I need to move it to an exchange. You see that on chain because you get a lot of new coin movement. A lot of dormancy becomes undormant. Currently, we're not even close to where we were at the previous all-time high. What I typically look at is the 1 to 3 month percentage, which is like this orange yellow down here. Typically, if that's above 10 to 15%, then it's game over for the trend, just because the selling pressure is too great to keep up.
All right, so coins that have not been moved in 1 to 3 months, if that's at 10% on the move, then that makes you think the trend is ending.
Right. And we're at what, 8% right now, so we're nowhere close to.
And what's like a cold number for that? Like, what's low?
It looks like it likes chilling around like that says 12. That's not right.
So it chills under 10%, but it doesn't go to like 4% or something.
No, it doesn't usually drop low, but it definitely spikes way up when we hit price highs. Even in 2013, you can see it here. All these orange, the new coin movements spiked.
What was that date in 2017 where there's a spike before the all-time high?
So I think this was actually Roger.
Just all Roger?
May have been Roger.
That was August 2017. And that was when we hit a high of around 4,600.
Yeah.
And that was the moon, like at the time.
Yeah.
200 to 4,600 is a big move.
Bitmain or Roger, somebody
big moved coins.
Yeah.
And then
so that's another thing to gauge. Like, okay, like, yeah, we're at 50K, but how much is everyone selling? That's a way to look at it.
Yeah. We got another question. Did we put any, this is from Crispus, do we put any stock in the fear and greed index?
Is that from like Thomas Lee? Tom Lee?
I don't know if it's from Tom Lee or not, but it's basically, I don't know what it's a derivative of, like how they calculate it, but it's essentially estimating, are people in the market fearful and scared? It indicates potential bottoms, or are people being overly greedy, which would indicate a potential top. And he's linked it on alternative.me.
I don't really pay attention to that, to be honest, but
well, I'm gonna pull.
I feel like being on Twitter 24/7, you can sense the fear and the greed.
Yeah.
You can sense.
This is fear and greed for crypto. It's currently at 74, and on a historical basis, it doesn't seem like overly on the greedy side, but it's not. Yeah, it's not out of control, is the point. So, no, I don't have too big of opinions on that. I think one of the ones that I like to look at is what is the net speculator positioning, and I feel like in Legacy especially, like the put numbers go way up or the call numbers go way up, and those tend to lean towards getting people off sides. Like it's hard for people if you have an overwhelming number of people long calls or something. It's hard to believe that they'll just destroy the options makers for a long time. So I feel like you're always long in the tooth if there's like the put call ratio is really low or something.
Well, we had a big expiry today as well, which is another reason for this volatility, I think. Big expiry on Deribit. On options.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I should have known.
I pull up CME. I think today's an expiry day.
I should have known. I forgot about it.
That's part of it as well, I think, what's going on right now. And it wasn't like a little tiny expiry either. It was
there were a lot.
If I have to redraw this chart, I'm going to be so upset. You know how much time it takes me? You know how much time it takes me to draw this by hand? Like, look at this. There's no more room.
Well, I'm sorry.
If we break 14, I'm going to be so upset.
Oh. This is not a sponsor, but Skew has shaded out some of their charts now, so I got to log in for it. I hadn't seen that before, so I guess I got to get a Skew account. That's okay.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time that they went to a pay model.
They have a great product, so
what was the volume on
it was
CME
high
today?
Oh, on CME today? I don't know.
I'm trying to find it.
Max Payne. Wow.
CME. So volumes were kind of high, but not like crazy. Open interest is still super high.
Yeah, open interest is really, really high.
So people must have just been rolling their positions.
Which signals bullishness for me.
I guess. I don't know. I'm really terrible at reading that.
Dwan Wan says that the high volatility and legacy after this election seems far too obvious, and surely option sellers just won't allow it. I think that's partly where this, I mean, the market's down, but it doesn't feel like VIX at 40 down. I feel like they're starting to price the VIX anticipating the greater volatility. So the VIX being high is going to be what helps. That's what's going to price those options premiums. So I think if you're just like, oh, I'm a genius, I'm going to go buy, you know, I'm going to go buy a straddle or something like that, like for playing the volatility both directions. I don't think that's going to work very well for you. So I agree with you on that. I don't think the volatility is going to be as high as everyone anticipates. Not when like the overwhelming consensus is, hey, this is going to be a contested election. I feel like markets, I'm with you, Juan. I think the markets are too efficient for that.
BitMEX open interest continues to decline.
Yeah, shouldn't be surprising.
It's
For an Asian exchange, they sure had a lot of Americans on it.
It's sitting at multi-year lows open interest. Is that right?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
If this
seems like Bybit is getting a lot of the outflows from BitMEX, which I guess also shouldn't be surprising. Also, Bybit is going to be a lower risks of U.S. regulators because they don't have U.S. founders or anything like that. So being an unregulated exchange, it's going to be, you're going to have a better time if you're not American in the first place. What's that? Oh, never mind.
We can talk about ETH if you want. I was just
I'd like to
around here.
I'd like to move to Ethereum. The summary for Bitcoin is the price is high, the trend looks good. We could have pullbacks, but we don't know what to expect. Ethereum, however, just can't really get the trend going on the dollar pair, and therefore it's getting wrecked on the Bitcoin pair. But I mean, we're sitting here at 382, 383 right now. But we're all the way down to 0.028 on the Bitcoin pair, which, Josh, we talked about that as kind of a important level, horizontal.
Yeah, what are we at? Let's talk about YFI in a minute too, but
yeah, we're at 0.0282 right now. I had this yellow box and a red line at 0.0276-ish.
I just think, I say this every ETH video, I talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's tradable. I really don't think it's tradable. It's
the
such
Bitcoin
a mess.
Pair. Because it's a mess, or because you don't think it's relevant, or what?
I think it's relevant. I just why would I want to trade this when it's so volatile, up and down? Like there's no clear picture for me here. Yes, it's mean reverted, fine. But going forward past this, like, do you expect lower lows here? Not really. Do I expect it to reconsolidate at around 033? Probably.
I'll put it this way. I don't necessarily want to take my positions. Like, I'm not going to take a margin position on ETH BTC itself. Like, I don't want to try to say, here is my high conviction play on ETH BTC. But I want to consider ETH BTC when I'm considering an ETH USD trade on margin, or if I'm considering whether to hold ETH on spot. You know, like I had a lot of Ethereum that I was willing to keep in Ethereum during that chop that it had before it broke down, that I took out of Ethereum as it started to break down. And now I'm trying to think what's going to reverse that so that I'm willing to hold ETH on spot. Because right now all I'm willing to do is punt along on ETH USD. And even in that scenario, it's kind of screwing me over because every time I do that, an up day benefits Bitcoin more because ETH USD is just stuck, right? So will ETH USD stay stuck? Or is this a sign that it's going to break down at the same time Bitcoin starts to retrace? Or is it going to catch up? And I don't know the answer to that.
I can understand looking at the ETH BTC chart to influence your spot trades or spot positions for the USD pairs, but I think trading ETH BTC is incredibly difficult at this point.
Yeah.
On high time frames, you can trade it on an hourly, 4 hour, whatever. But
the weekly ETH USD and the daily ETH USD, it just looks like it's in a range and hasn't made a decision. The weekly there's a pathway all the way below 300. Like if you do Keynesian tap, for instance, that would be $290 ETH, and it would still be on this edge-to-edge cloud play, pre-breakout on the cloud. But that's a big Ethereum USD drawdown that's possible within the current structure of how all that's set up. That's how I kind of view the weekly, and I hate to think of it that way because I don't want that to happen. If I look at a moving average strategy on the weekly, the 20-week moving average is at 343, which I think is a more logical place to wick to. But I mean, you and I both know, even though it can take a long time, we do eventually hit things like the Keynesian or whatever. That's also the 200-week USD average. 288 is where the 200-week is. So that would be a bearish move down, but a go all in type of level. Like if you tell me ETH's at 288 and I'm in Bitcoin, I'm gonna take a punt on Ethereum at 288. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just think it's trendless right now on the daily. Like we talked about, I can't remember pre-show or earlier, but
it was pre-show.
The key June or the TK cross, the bullish TK recross, the EMA type MA type cross has not recurred yet. So if anything, why isn't this working?
Yeah, it's telling you you're in the no trade zone.
If anything, it's telling you to still stay out of this trade because it hasn't crossed yet. Like if you're playing this as you should, looking at each part of this cloud metric, it still hasn't TK crossed above the cloud.
Yeah, and as somebody who has taken trades in ETH, I can tell you they've all been underwhelming. Like I take it and it's like I make a few bucks here and I make a few bucks there, and then I'm getting it again and I'm down a few bucks that retraces the last two. And not that that's where I am right now, but that's where I am right now, and it's just been not good enough of a trend or breakout to really give me very much on the plus side. So where do we look for to say what's our estimate for what would occur to create the rational trade? The one that says like, okay, a game is on above like 420.
There's nothing. So 420 is fractal as well if you're playing that game. The other thing that spooked me out of my ETH long was the alligator starting to flip bearish here. But yeah, 420. It's just I can't even draw anything on this chart to like make sense of it from a chart pattern perspective or anything.
Yeah, it broke up weekly from like in a weak fashion from what was very flaggy looking, but then it just kind of broke up a little bit and dinked around, and now it just feels like it's on a little bit of a random walk, which while Bitcoin is trending strongly is not exactly what you want to hear if you're trading Ethereum.
Right. It's playing the alt game instead of the world computer game. It's just it's tracking the alts very well in that they're all dying off. I mean, if you looked at
at
EOS. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, except for Ethereum is holding up way better relative to the dollar. Most of those have been getting wrecked relative to dollar, relative to Bitcoin. It doesn't matter; they're just getting wrecked.
Sure. I mean, look at EOS, look at LTC, look at Tezos BTC.
Oh.
Just absolute devastation.
Absolute versus devastation. The dollar too. Tezos, I was tweeting about how
look at this. Look at this chart.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
It is just completely demolished. 62% from the top.
Back in the latter half of 2019, when I felt like the only bullish Tezos person in the world, and you were trolling me about it. We're working back towards those levels. So if you've been in Tezos and you held it throughout that gigantic consolidation to the top, you're having a bad time right now. And I mean, how can you have that long of a consolidation, break down from it, and then think that it's not going to have a long walk down, right? Like that is going all the way back to that volume. What's that high volume node? 10K Satoshis?
Yeah. 10K sats.
And it's at 13.8 now. So there's still a 30% downside trade relative to Bitcoin. Now, I have some ancient
But I remember talking about this either on the podcast or in a video about this previous all-time high retest. And this is a great example for people who don't think the pitchforks work. As soon as this broke out, as soon as this broke below the pitchfork, it's game over. Like what else do you want in an indicator to tell you that a trend is over? I don't know. It's just so perfect for me.
Well, if you look at the dollar pair, after going to 440, it perfectly bear flagged at like 215. So it's down 50% and then pops off a perfect bear flag, breaks down from it, and it's down to 179 like 2 or 3 days after I, tweeted how like this baby went down 50%. Looks like it wants to go down another 50%. Like that puts it at $1. You look at it's got plenty of room for more downside. This is the type, especially if you don't think Bitcoin's going to go ham, because some of these could just float relative to the dollar while Bitcoin goes up. But if Bitcoin stops going up, or whatever scenario you want to look at, if you want to hedge your Bitcoin position, maybe whatever you're looking at, something like Tezos is the type where I'd be interested in playing the consolidations to seek downside as a hedge against my long Bitcoin positions. Because I think it could keep going, man. I think the whole narrative for Tezos sucks right now.
Well, the weird part is 80% of the network is still being staked. So it's like, who's selling? Are they just selling the baked earnings, the staked stuff? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the inflation getting,
taking an effect
on the price. The same thing we're seeing in DeFi. I say that this current breakdown does have support here, like multi-year support. So it's not like I'd open a short at this moment, but at that 215, it went quickly to 180. That's a big trade, right?
But it suffered the DeFi boom because it didn't have any DeFi, and now it's just an alt that's suffering the alt death, right? So
yeah,
it has nothing going for it, and the RSI still hasn't put in a bull div. It's at 20.
Yeah, I really think that XTZ BTC chart is, it's showing you the high volume node that it could easily go to. Now, what your Tezos bulls aren't going to want to hear is, have they failed the DeFi? Have they failed the altcoin narrative, the our network can get traction narrative? And will this have price exploration on all-time lows relative to Bitcoin? Because that is totally possible.
And this is Ripple. Look at same story,
New lows. You know what, Josh? I hate to see it.
multi-year lows. Look at LTC BTC. I also think multi-year lows. It's just, I think this actually looks prime for a reversal,
a short squeeze,
bounce long, falling wedge, bull div situation.
It looks like Litecoin could double relative to Bitcoin really quickly. To me,
yeah. Not that I'm massively bullish on Litecoin, but
there's an air gap. You're on a weekly chart with huge trend lines on the RSI, like that you could call multi-tap divergences, whatever you want to call. But the volume node there between 0.004 and 0.006 just looks wide, real wide.
Yeah, it probably looks better on Bitfinex, honestly.
And it just condensed down and down and down through that. Either that trend line, that RSI trend line, is going to break down and it's going to go melt, or it's going to have a nice short squeeze.
Well, it's coming to a head soon, right?
Yeah. I've seen this game before, though, and I've seen it break right out of the bottom of those.
Sure.
Well, relative to BTC, I'm not sure if I'm seeing it yet on these. It kind of feels to me, and this is where I started to become acutely aware of altcoins and crypto back in 2017. You remember the run Bitcoin went on between like September to December, and these things were condensing, compressing. Everybody had fun in the spring, and they were like, when do we get it again? And they just died and died and died all the way until Bitcoin topped, and then they finally ran.
Yep, 100%. You can see that with Doge too. Doge, XRP, LTC, they all just melted for months and then randomly spike. BNB BTC, that Adam and Eve I talked about last week somewhere, is breaking down.
Which one was that?
BNB BTC.
Oh yeah, I was really bullish if you look at the BNB USD pair, but it's really looking a little dicey now.
Well, I was talking about a rising wedge with that, which was questionable, but
I was looking at it from a potential. You don't see it as much on your line chart, but on a candle chart, the ascending triangle, or maybe even like a cup and handle type of situation, looked really good.
Yeah, you're talking about this here.
Yeah,
but that broke down. What was the other alt? I want to talk about Wi-Fi, but there was one more that XMR USD on the parabolic.
Oh yeah, it's starting to lose that parabolic advance.
Yeah.
Which is another one that looked like it could go all the way to like 200, and then it just paused out.
I think it still looks fine, but it's definitely less fine than it has been.
Yeah. Wi-Fi is an absolute beauty, so why don't you pull that one up?
Wi-Fi, we talked about, I don't know, I feel like we talk about the same stuff every week, but we talked about head and shoulders. I was talking about this descending triangle.
The descending triangle was gorgeous.
I still think this keeps going down. I don't think it stops here, but
I think it's currently bearish retesting, and I think it's going to go all the way to like 4 to 6K. So on my chart, I didn't draw. I was watching that triangle too, but I was just watching the breakdown of the horizontal and where it consolidated on the left-hand side. On the 4 hour, you can find that support at 10K or whatever that it bounced off of here. But if you just look at the daily, it was basically a big air gap on the way up, and it just looks like it's going to go all the way back down. Full retrace. And I mean, Andre, he's not helping anything on here. He came out with another thing called Keeper, and it went up like a jillion %. I'm sad. I missed it. I got the one Andre mega rug and missed the 20x on Keeper. What was that called? I don't remember how to spell it. KP3.
I haven't even heard of it. No idea.
You haven't heard of it?
No.
Well,
KP3R. KEP3R.
Yeah, I got it right here. So I think this is the right one. No, this isn't the right one. Dadgummit. Does somebody have it in the chat? KP3R.
That's the first sign of trouble when a ticker is difficult to understand.
Am I looking at the right one? This doesn't feel right.
I can't pull it up on
this
TradingView.
Isn't right. I'm not looking at the right chart. P3R. Here it is. This is the one I was looking for. When you actually look it up, it's KP3R. It's called Keeper, and from a DeFi perspective, it looks pretty cool. He launched this sucker at like 3 in the morning for Americans, after probably the midday for Europeans, and it started on Uniswap below $2, and then like a day later it was 200. I know somebody that got into it under $6 and made a huge multiple on it. But now it's just been chilling out here up above $200, and I mean, it looks like it's going to break down and retrace some of that, but these are fascinating the way they mark up to just some market cap to start, and then they start to form the chart. Like if I take those first days out of it, now it just looks like a chop fest once you get up there. But there is so much space below. But anyway, so this is another Andre coin, so it's not Wi-Fi. It's not Eminence, which we all talked about, which I lost a lot of money on. And then this one, Moon. So Wi-Fi and Keeper, Moon. Eminence gets rugged and people lose all their money, and I bought Eminence. So good job on me. But I mean, he's just releasing all these coins, like these are going to lose their allure pretty quickly, I feel like.
There's only so many people that can buy that stuff,
Yeah, I mean, because by the time now you're buying it, you're just buying someone else's distribution, right?
Right, exactly. You're buying someone else's distribution while they're selling for the next Andre coin.
Right.
Buy, We'll talk about Link really quick. Link still looks like it could head and shoulders here. It's definitely where it should be mean wise at the pitchfork level at the 200.
Are they still selling a bunch of coins?
Yeah, that's not going to change.
But they were doing it at a faster clip, right?
Not faster, but bigger clip. Actually, yeah, they were doing it faster. Well, faster, bigger, same thing.
Faster, bigger. The team is dumping on you continuously. Just remember that.
That's not going to change.
They got to pay their bills.
I love the response from the Marines, fake or otherwise, who are always like, well, their business is expanding. They need this extra money. I mean,
And
sure.
you're
That,
buying to give it to them.
exactly. Like, I don't care if that's true. I don't care if it's good or bad. The point is the tokens are being sold and more people need to buy what they're selling in order for price to increase. That's
Yep.
just the way it works.
So I'm not interested in buying that. That's for sure. I think what we're
No.
getting at here is like, we're not seeing signs that these all just want to go up all of a sudden. So I don't think you have to rush into them. Ethereum is really the only one I'm even willing to punt on, but I'm not even willing to hold it on spot. Like, I'm not holding a lot of Ethereum on spot. Dogecoin's getting wrecked.
Doge multi-year lows.
Yikes.
I think sub 15. I might actually buy some Doge.
I mean, how could Doge not eventually go up at sub 15?
That would be my logic as well.
In before one sat.
In before priced in another denomination because it's below 0 sats.
It's got to be put on a Litecoin pair. Some of those old Cryptopia coins used to do that. They go below one sat and then they have to go on Litecoin pairs. Here's one that I wanted to look at, which is Uni. The reason I want to pull this up is because Uni is seeing continuous sell pressure, and I don't think it's because Uni is like so bad, but I think we're seeing the effects of these farming tokens where they give the rewards to the pools, and then you just don't have willing buyers, but you have plenty of willing sellers when they're being rewarded Uni, and they don't even have to hold Uni in the pools. Like, Uni is not one of the pools required coins, which I think would help lift it a little bit. If one of the 4 pools are all like ETH USD, ETH WBTC, things like that. There's not like a ETH Uni pool that gets the same or maybe even doubled rewards relative to the others, which would give buy pressure to Uni. There's just sell pressure on Uni. And I think all of these governance tokens we're going to have to see how they iterate, how they try to adjust their token models, because right now we're not seeing incentives for people to buy them, and the only upside we get is short squeezes on stuff like Curve that we had recently. I mean, I looked and I looked and I looked. I wanted this long. And of course, I tweeted about it like, I don't know when this is going to double, but when it does, it's going to be fun. And then that was basically the bottom. I tweeted that at like 36 cents. And
such a brave call. How did you muster?
How did I muster? Because I have been known to buy Curve and try to scalp it and get that double, but I missed it. So it went from a low of like 33 or 32 cents up to like 65. So it got the double and then full retraced it, because a short squeeze is about all these have been good for. And it's just tough, man. It's tough. It's a tough world out there for these farming tokens, because as my buddy Crypto Messiah said on one of them, you are the yield. So when you're buying those, you are the yield. They are maintaining their value because of the people who buy them despite their bad mechanics. So it's not the world the DeFiers dreamed of right now. So I think they need to iterate on those models to figure out a token dynamic that will work.
I agree 100%. More sellers than buyers. That's just how it's going to be. SNX still looks like one of the best buys to me. I did a DeFi video again this week. Everything looks like stir-fried horse dookie compared to this. Honestly, I still don't have any. I need to figure out where I can buy this. I still think it looks good. It might blow out the bottom, but SNX looks good. Band broke
down from that.
Band broke down, so I didn't buy it. I used my patience.
Usually the bat signal is dead on. You don't have it on yours, but I have it on here. When you get those wicks, we talked about this last week, but that to me, that's usually the bat signal. Like, somebody dumped a lot of this, triggered a bunch of stops. Maybe they even got filled on the cascade a little extra, which I don't know how easy that would be to do on spot, but I've seen this so many times. I remember it for the first time back in Waves, maybe in early 2018 or something, but it didn't work out on this one.
Yeah.
It did do it on Cream, though. If you go to Cream BUSD, it's a Binance pair. Excuse my dog. That sucker broke down from $20 to $7 and then just went straight up. And I feel like maybe if you trigger these stops, then those people have to chase to get back in. I don't know. Either
That's
way,
interesting.
I've seen this so many times. I call it the bat signal. I don't know what it means. Just theorizing with you on air.
Very interesting.
So if you ever see the bat signal, you know what to do. I think the strike rate on it is pretty good, honestly. Like, I was surprised when Band went down so much afterwards, because I've seen that happen before. Like, it looks like a capitulation, but it's too stupid to be just pure capitulation, you know? Like,
Looks like it's manufactured.
it looks like it
and-
might be a little market manipulation.
Oh yeah, exactly. look at the volume on that. There's
It's low.
almost no volume on that.
Yeah, so it's like somebody who has a whole buttload of coins, takes 1% of them, creates some wick at a time where there's no liquidity on the downside. And it's like, is it a call to arms? Who are we calling? Are we like rallying the troops of, I don't know.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot. Keep an eye out for it,
I think I've
listener.
talked about everything I wanted to say. Zcash looks bad. Any BTC pair looks bad right now, honestly.
All the BTC pairs look like freaking crap.
That's it. I think we're in a waiting game.
Yeah, we didn't actually look at Bitcoin dominance, though.
I can
but
pull it up.
As you would expect, it's up. What I see on it, though, is that 200-week moving average that we talked about a lot.
64, Brian.
And it broke out of your red area chart as well.
We're in Bitcoin season, my friends.
That is
bask in its glory.
That is the definition of Bitcoin season. So tread lightly in altcoin waters is basically what that means. I mean, it doesn't mean it's impossible.
We're almost getting a golden cross
Yeah.
on Bitcoin season. I mean, could you not be bullish Bitcoin?
Alts could do a thing, but it's not easy.
No.
Consider this as well. This is also Bitcoin establishing that dominance when all of those altcoins are creating more and more coins every day. Their supply is going up and up every day. So it's more pronounced than what you see when it reverses like that. So that's why, some of these alts went down 90% top to bottom already. Like, it was a super quick cycle. But they're going to go down 99% or something, like if we keep doing this with Bitcoin. So be careful, look for opportunities, but don't just ape in because it's down 90%. You know what they say about a coin that's down 90%?
It's 90% of its way to being down 90% more.
something along those lines. Which I think that's a repeat of words we've said before. Here's my dog, by the way. You want to see my dog? That's her. I don't have anything else, Josh. Do you?
I got nothing. It's time for dinner for me.
Time for dinner. Everybody, protect your bags, protect your keys. Not your keys, not your corn.
That's right.
It's great to see you. We'll catch you next time. Give us a review.
You as well.
Give us a review on iTunes. We'd love that. Have a good one.
Monuments crumble in the blink of an eye. The easy river has just run dry. In a house of cards, I feel the breeze wound so tight I can barely